we in Argentina, we follow this process from the corner of our eye. As you know, not yet engaged, no, but very concerned about what's going on here. And we are paying attention to what's going on here because I do think that a lot of the future is being constructed in these meetings. So it's important to be here and to share with you something about my country, just as my friend from Paraguay just did. My position within the ministry is in charge of environmental issues within the Ministry of Agroindustry. So I'm kind of like the fifth column within the ministry, making sure that the guys in livestock, the guys in agriculture, the guys in fisheries, etc., take care of the environmental variable within their policies and the things they do. So that is going to be my perspective here. I think the process for sustainable beef production is an important one, and we do share the goals. But I think we have to be very smart about the strategies or the means to achieve those goals. And for that, we need to understand very clearly the context in which beef cattle ranching happens and beef is produced. No? So the first thing I want to do is share that context with you and be very candid about it. First of all, we have a problem. No? We do know that. This is a map of the Greater Chaco area with one of the many maps you will find describing the pressures on the area. Red and blue mean deforestation in different periods of time. These are problems shared by 4 countries, no? A little bit by Brazil, Bolivia, but largely by Paraguay and Argentina. And that is a challenge, no? But of course, that is not the main challenge or the only challenge. This is the sister challenge, which is this, poverty, of course, no? Deforestation in Argentina happens in the most poverty-stricken regions of our country, no? The northwest, this area here, and the northeast, this area here, no? And the poverty levels defined as this, no? It's like $10,000 a year for a family of 5, no? It's very high. And that is a main policy objective of our government, no? To reduce those levels, especially in this region. So that's number one. Number two is, in particular regarding the deforestation challenge, no? Argentina passed in 2007 a native forest law that basically mandates all the provinces to define, territorially zone their forests, no? In 3 categories. A green area where land use change is allowed, a yellow area where sustainable forest management can happen, no? You can pay your attention here especially, and red areas where forests must be conserved and no economic activity can take place, no? So that's the law in 2007. The good news is since then, deforestation rates have fallen from very high to still high, no? but going down, no? That's the good news, and the one we are looking at is this one, no? In different periods of time, so we're still not there, but the progression is more or less positive. Of course, this is driven by and large by agriculture, no? And cattle comes second as a driver of that change. So, the first thing I want to do after showing you the problem is in what context the forest law and the zero deforestation of in protected areas, yellow and red, takes place, because that policy is implemented within a context of a very strong, an economy very strongly based on agriculture and the primary sector and the added value it produces. This is a graphic representation of our exports, no, for 2014, actually, no? And you can see that about 60% of our exports are based on agriculture and its added value, no? That is very, very, very strong as a driver of what policies are viable and what strategies one needs to adopt in order to achieve the goal of zero deforestation. Now, this structure doesn't set us apart from our friends in Brazil and Paraguay. Their export matrix looks more or less similar, no? What does set us apart is this. Unlike many other countries of in the world, where this is a way of expressing how much farming activities or agriculture is subsidized in different countries. So you can go from very high, like in Colombia, to moderately low, like in Brazil. In Argentina, it is highly taxed. No? Now, this is a number for 2011, which was a particularly bad year in terms of taxation. This has gone down substantially, but it's still significantly high. No? So, number two, we need to understand the role that the primary sector, cattle ranching including, plays in the whole structure of economic development of Argentina. No? There's no way you can implement a zero deforestation policy without paying attention to this. Now, a little bit about what kind of producers we have in my country. No? In terms of numbers, absolute numbers, most of our farmers are family farmers or smallholders. And that's a broad category. It goes from subsistence farmers to families in like a middle-class situation or even higher. But it has a technical definition that places them as family farmers, which represent most of the establishments. In the two regions of interest here, which is the north of Argentina, with this kind of distribution. Of course, you have most of the production concentrated in fewer hands, and that's more or less natural if you want, no? But it's another situation that policies need to address, no? And that we are very aware at the ministry that is something we need to address. Now, there are subtleties to this that I'm not going to go into it, but in general, that is the picture of production in Argentina. The second thing to note about production in Argentina, which is a challenge to us and a goal we're setting as a policy goal, is the level of production. No? This is a time series from the 19th century all the way to 2008 or today, actually. And you can see that the total stock in millions of heads, right, went up until 1978 and then stagnated, hovering between 60 and 50 million heads at the national stock since 1978. And that hasn't really changed for a number of reasons. We can discuss that later. But one of the things is productivity. It is cow-calf efficiency, no? Which in my country, on average, is still very low, about 0.65, which is very low. That's an average, no? That hides a lot of differences, especially in the more competitive and efficient farmers, which we have, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. No? But on average, we're still there. So that's another challenge that provides context to the policies relating to sustainable cattle ranching in my country. Third thing of context to note is the country as a whole and the area in particular has a very strong social and institutional fabric. Lots of things are going on there. From public institutions that bring technology. This map shows the different locations of the National Agricultural Technology Institute. So they're all over the place, and they're very, very present here, bringing technology and helping farmers to improve in different ways. No? Private associations, very, very high level in terms of technology development. Argentina is an extraordinary producer of agricultural technology. We have a problem of adoption, not of technology available for farmers and producers, and of course, a lot of NGOs, local NGOs, working on the field. So if we're going to develop a sustainable beef strategy in my country, we need to take account that we are doing it in a context with a very rich social and institutional fabric. No? And that's not a minor thing to say. So in general terms, no, which is again, and I'm coming to the forest in a minute. No? The Ministry of Agroindustry has set 4 great overarching goals, if you want, that have to do with achieving sustainably the maximum productive capacity in the different territories of the country, no? With export-oriented, the export of goods and services in diversified markets, no? With differentiating and adding value in origin and making value chains more competitive and transparent. And there is another big policy development that hasn't got to do with agriculture or my ministry, but is a very strong emphasis on infrastructure development in the Greater Chaco area. Roads and connectivity and electricity and what you have. No? So there is a very strong plan of investing a lot of resources in providing the context for a more competitive, a more prosperous region, and therefore lifting a lot of people out of poverty in that area in particular. Specifically for the sector, for the cattle sector, we want to achieve a 75% winning rate, which is up from 65%, which is the current average. 3 minutes, so I'm going to hurry up. Which we think is achievable because this is happening, no? Among the leading producers. So we want to bring that technology down to all the laggards, if you want, increase the stock by 10%, make markets more transparent, and add value. The instruments and policies have to do with this. I'm not going to go into that. We can discuss that later if you want, but go from fiscal measures all the way to market transparency and the development of what we call bioeconomy, which is a term I'm sure you're familiar with, which is one way of understanding how to create value chains in the sector. So, back to the forest, no? It is my belief that as productivity and stocks increase and competitivity improves and incomes rise, which will happen if the policies are successful and they are starting to have their effect, this will improve conservation. Improvements in the context will improve the likelihood that conservation will happen. No? But in addition, the native forest law is well established. It's not a paper. It's really happening with difficulties, still not there, but it's happening. And at the ministry, we're trying to estimate how much land is available for cattle ranching in the different parts of the country, in particular in this area, respecting the law. So we're starting to make our estimates. We estimate that there are between 27 and 34 million hectares of available land for cattle ranching, respecting within the context of the law. That means without deforesting where it is not allowed, which is a lot of land. No? So that brings us to the implementation of that. So what's been going on since the law was passed is that management plans have been on the rise. This graph curve shows from 2010 to 2016 how many forest management plans have been presented by producers. Producers by law have to present to the authorities a management plan in order to be allowed to conduct economic activities within the forest or convert the forest where allowed. So that is going up. And that presents us with a challenge, and that is, can we provide guidance to the provinces from the national level and producers as to how to combine in a silvopastoral system extensive cattle ranching, forest intensification, natural pastures, healthy forests, and biodiversity? And that's the question, technical question we are discussing. And we believe we are on the right track of finding the solution. And for that, we have an agreement between the Ministry of Agroindustry and the Ministry of Environment. The implementing agency of the forest law is the Ministry of Environment. So they come to the Ministry of Agriculture one day and they say, you need to help us. We need to work together in achieving the goals of the law. And we said, of course, let's work together. No? So let's work together in finding the method, the system, the productive system that will respect the law and will achieve our goals. Our goals are more efficiency, more production, etc., the ones I just said. So we're working on this agreement and have developed a system, no, that we're implementing in several pilot places. No? We have agreements with different provinces for implementing this, and many more are in the pipeline to sign agreements with us to implement those processes. The system we're working on has 3 principles, no, which are these you can read, yeah, and a number of guidelines. No? So those systems are based on preserving biodiversity, especially connectivity and heterogeneity, preserving the shrubs in the forest, no? The structure of the forest in a way that is conducive to a healthy forest ecosystem, the creation of forest reserves, a plan that allows for regeneration and the maintenance of structure, a grazing system that is appropriate for the type of situation the forest is in, risk management, and water management. No, which is very important in that particular area. So there's a whole technical development of that system that is being implemented at the pilot phase in different provinces. We're hoping that will take off very soon. And in essence, we want to go from the kind of situation we have today, no, which you saw with different ways of organizing silvopastoral systems, which tend to be as deforestation in slow motion at the end of the day. They don't really solve the problem. No? They buy us time until we find the right solution. I want to move from this kind of situation to this kind of situation, where you have a part of the farm dedicated to producing forage, a part for biodiversity, yeah, and then the rest is land sharing arrangement in the system, where you have different parameters of how much shrub you can remove, how much shrub you cannot remove, what kind of grasses you can use, what kind of grasses you cannot use, right? And end up in this kind of integrated approach to forests that can be used sustainably. Finally, and this is the biggest challenge in terms of the environment and biodiversity, there has been some work within the government. This is the Greater Chaco region again, and what you're seeing here is a map of biodiversity corridors. So we went through the effort of seeing, okay, given different layers of information, can we design biological corridors that will preserve biodiversity in productive landscapes? No? This is excluding protected areas, and that connects different important biodiversity hotspots. And that is very easy to do on paper, no, of course, and very hard to do on the ground. But that's the next frontier, right? We're trying to first to move and make sure that we validate sustainable, productive systems adapted to the Greater Chaco area, and then we can move on discussing with producers how do we make this a reality within your farms.